The cage burst open with a deafening clang, and a massive dog tore into the crowd. People screamed, scattering in terror. But one man didn't move, an elderly figure with a cane, standing perfectly still. In the next few moments, something happened that left every witness pale with shock. The afternoon had been peaceful, filled with the chatter of families and the laughter of children. But the calm shattered in an instant when the sound of metal snapping echoed through the air. A heavy cage door swung open, and a massive German shepherd burst free, eyes blazing, jaws wide as it barked ferociously. Screams erupted. Parents grabbed their children, pulling them close as people scrambled in every direction. Some ducked behind benches, others bolted toward the exits, their footsteps pounding against the pavement in panic. The once bustling walkway turned into chaos, a storm of fear sweeping over everyone in sight. The dog's growls reverberated through the air as it charged forward, teeth flashing under the afternoon sun. A group of teenagers shouted warnings, their voices cracking with fear as they ran. The crowd scattered like leaves in the wind, desperate to get out of its path. Yet amid the frenzy, one figure remained still. An elderly man, leaning on his cane, stood rooted to the spot. His white hair glistened under the light, his face calm, unreadable. While the world around him dissolved into terror, he made no attempt to run. All eyes turned toward him. The old man's name was Walter. At 78, his body moved slower than most, but his spirit was steady, unshaken by the panic erupting around him. To bystanders, it seemed as if fear had paralyzed him, keeping him frozen in place. But those who looked closer noticed something else. His eyes. They weren't wide with terror. They were steady, calm, almost knowing. Walter tightened his grip on the cane, his knuckles pale but his posture unyielding. He didn't flinch, didn't take a single step back as the dog's thunderous growls filled the air. People shouted at him from a distance, their voices trembling. Run, move. But he remained where he was, unmoved by their desperation. For Walter, running wasn't an option. Years of hardship had taught him that fear solves nothing. Perhaps it was age, or perhaps it was wisdom. But he knew instinctively that if he fled, the situation would only spiral into disaster. Instead, he chose stillness. The sight was both haunting and mesmerizing. An elderly man standing firm while chaos swallowed the crowd around him. No one could understand why. But soon, they would learn the truth, and the answer would leave them. Pale with shock, the German shepherd's gaze locked onto Walter like a predator spotting its prey. Its body tensed, muscles coiled, and with a guttural growl, it lunged forward. The sound of claws scraping the pavement echoed through the air as gasps and screams rang out from the crowd. "Get out of there!" someone cried, their voice nearly breaking. But Walter did not move. His cane remained planted firmly on the ground, his shoulders squared. He simply stood there, watching the dog approach with eyes that revealed no fear. To the onlookers, it looked like madness, an elderly man waiting for disaster to strike. The shepherd's barks grew louder as it closed the distance. Its teeth gleamed in the sunlight, saliva dripping from its jaws, each step pounding like thunder. In the ears of those who watched, mothers shielded their children's eyes. Men pulled their families farther away. Some could no longer bear to look, certain they were about to witness something terrible, but Walter remained unshaken. Slowly, he lifted one hand away from his cane and extended it forward, palm open, steady and deliberate. His lips moved, though the words were soft, nearly drowned by the noise. Still, the gesture was clear. This was not a man preparing to fight, but a man greeting an old friend. The dog skidded to a halt just feet away from Walter, its claws scraping the concrete. The growl in its throat rumbled low and threatening. But then, something shifted. Its ears twitched, its nose lifted, and it began to sniff the air with quick, sharp breaths. The crowd held its breath, bracing for the worst. But instead of lunging, the German shepherd's posture softened. Its growl broke into a confused whine. The tension in its muscles seemed to melt as its head tilted slightly. Eyes locked onto Walter, as if searching for something familiar. Walter's voice cut through the silence, soft yet steady. He whispered a name, one no one else understood. The dog's ears perked instantly, its eyes widening as recognition sparked deep within them. A sound escaped the animal's throat, not of anger, but of longing, Gasps rippled through the onlookers. The terrifying beast that had moments ago sent dozens running in fear now whimpered like a lost child reunited with family. Walter lowered himself carefully, extending his hand further. The dog sniffed it, then pressed its head against his palm. In that instant, the truth was undeniable. This was no random encounter. This dog knew him. Years seemed to peel away from Walter's eyes as he looked at the animal before him. Memories, long buried under the dust of time, came rushing back with painful clarity. This wasn't just any German shepherd. This was Max, his dog, his loyal companion from years past. Walter's voice trembled as he stroked the animal's fur. "Max, it's really you." The name rolled off his tongue like a prayer. The dog responded with a soft whine, tail wagging hesitantly, as if recognizing the man he had once loved. The flashback unfolded in Walter's mind. He remembered the day he first brought Max home as a playful pup, how the dog had grown strong and protective, always by his side. Together, they had weathered countless lonely nights, the shepherd curling at Walter's feet when grief and silence weighed too heavy. But fate had been cruel. When Walter fell ill years ago, he had been forced to give Max up, unable to care for him properly. The separation had broken his heart, but he told himself it was for the dog's best chance at survival. He never expected to see him again, and yet, here he was, against all odds, standing before him. The ferocious beast the crowd had feared was nothing more than a faithful friend who had never forgotten his master. Tears blurred Walter's vision as he realized the truth. Max had come back to him. The crowd stood frozen, every pair of eyes locked on the unbelievable sight before them. The German shepherd that had broken free, the same dog that moments ago had terrified everyone into running, now pressed its head against the old man's chest with the gentleness of a child. Walter wrapped his frail arms around Max, burying his face in the dog's fur. A sob escaped his lips, part joy, part heartbreak. The shepherd whimpered softly, tail wagging furiously, as if trying to make up for all the lost years in a single embrace. No one spoke. The air was thick with disbelief. Mothers who had shielded their children lowered their hands slowly, eyes wide with awe. Men who had shouted warnings now stood silent, unable to explain what they were witnessing. The dog, once a symbol of danger, had transformed into a picture of loyalty and love. It licked Walter's trembling hands, refusing to let go, as though it feared losing him again. What should have ended in tragedy had instead revealed something extraordinary, a bond that time, distance, and even fear could never break. And for everyone watching, it was a moment they would never forget. The authorities arrived quickly, their cautious steps betraying their nerves. One officer stretched out his arm, murmuring for the dog to step back, but Max only pressed closer to Walter, his body tense and protective. The once feared animal now looked more like a guardian unwilling to be separated from the man he loved. Walter shook his head gently, his voice steady despite the emotion in it. "He won't hurt anyone," he assured them. "He's just come home." His words carried a weight that silenced the whispers around him. People who had moments earlier run in fear now stood pale and motionless, not from terror, but from awe. They had expected blood and chaos, yet what they witnessed was devotion that defied explanation. The German shepherd had chosen, and his choice was clear. Max belonged with Walter, and nothing could tear them apart again. The once frantic German shepherd now lay calmly at his feet, loyal as if not a single day had passed since they were last together. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Others wiped at tears they hadn't expected. What they had seen wasn't a near tragedy. It was a miracle of memory, loyalty, and love. Walter looked down at Max, his eyes glistening. "You never forgot me, did you?" he murmured, his voice breaking with gratitude. The dog's tail thumped softly against the ground, his answer needing no words. That day left everyone with a lesson they would never forget. Animals may not speak our language, but they speak the language of the heart. Bonds built on love are never broken, not by time, not by distance, not even by fear.